As defined by the American Association of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, an intellectual disability is a disability characterized by significant limitations in both intellectual functioning and in adaptive behavior, which covers many everyday social and practical skills. When describing an intellectual disability, it is important for us to know what intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior mean. Intellectual functioning refers to general mental capacity, such as learning, reasoning, and problem solving. Adaptive behavior is the collection of conceptual, social, and practical skills that are learned and performed by people in their everyday lives. In common terms, intellectual disabilities occur when a student has limitations impacting their cognitive functioning and learning. Examples of intellectual disabilities are Fragile X syndrome, Down syndrome, or autism spectrum disorder. Other intellectual disabilities can occur that are passed down genetically or are due to a traumatic injury. Academic challenges that students with intellectual disabilities face are problem solving, conceptualizing topics such as number processes, and abstract reasoning. Emotionally, students may struggle with comparing themselves to their peers, become frustrated or anxious. All of this can impact the student's academic success. The following criteria can be found with a student with an intellectual disability: IQ below 70 to 75, significant limitations in two or more adaptive areas such as skills needed to live, work, and play in the community, and 3, condition manifests itself before the age of 18. The key to helping students with intellectual disabilities is to find strategies and adapt our teaching to ensure all students have the opportunity to access the general curriculum. This is known as an inclusive education. All students are welcome, and a disability is a form of diversity. In an inclusive education, appropriate sources are available, students are with peer groups, and all students share educational opportunities. Inclusive environments are important because students with disabilities can become engaged in various curriculum, interact with non-disabled peers, access natural supports, and learn a daily routine. Currently, I teach math. Most math instruction for students with intellectual disabilities revolve around functional purposes such as telling time or purchasing items. However, there are many strategies that could be applied for students with intellectual disabilities to conceptualize the same content as all other students. When teaching new vocabulary, students need multiple representations of the words. For example, instead of having a student write the definitions, a modified assignment might include pre-made flashcards with the word and picture. The student would tell what the word actually meant. Another classroom strategy to use would be modified response time. For example, currently I have a student with autism spectrum disorder. It is a classroom guideline that all students answer at least one question per day. Thus, every day we give this student his question when he first comes into class. This gives him time to develop an answer and respond appropriately. According to Rivera and Baker, teaching math skills to students with disabilities may not be easy, but can lead to increased ability to function in natural environments and makes the content meaningful. Thus, there are specific strategies that can be implemented in mathematics alone. Graphic organizers can be used to help students with disabilities organize information. A teacher may color code these organizers to prompt students through the steps, as shown in the organizer for solving linear equations. It is also important for teachers to use manipulatives to help students visualize the math concepts they are trying to teach. For example, in 8th grade, students learn exponent properties. Watch as the teacher takes a normal lesson and adds manipulatives for a student with disabilities. Okay, what we're going to do today is take a simple pencil paper activity and turn it into something that we could use with manipulatives with a student with an intellectual disability. So prior to this lesson, we have probably done multiplying exponents, and the student should know that in order for a property to work, the base has to be the same. So here we are investigating dividing exponents, and this might be our first lesson with this unit for the student. So we have x to the third divided by x squared. I would prompt the student to ask, how many x's does x to the third mean? And when she responds with 3, the student would take 3 x's and place them on top of the fraction bar, similar to the original problem. Once the student has completed that, I would then prompt the student to ask how many x's are on the bottom of the fraction, in which he or she would respond with 2. And likewise, the student would place the 2 x's on the bottom of the fraction. Then the student and I would investigate what it means when I have a number on the top and a number on the bottom. Hopefully prior to this, he or she has mastered the concept that it would be one whole, so those would cancel out. So I would prompt the student to circle the pairs that would be one whole. And when they did that, we would remove those X's from the problem because they are no longer there, which then would leave the student with one X, which we would have X to the first or just X. So in this, we have taken an activity that should be paper and pencil and added manipulatives to help the student conceptualize the concept. This would be followed with several examples, and then we would investigate the shortcut, which would be 3 minus 2 is X to the first. As teachers begin to work with students with disabilities, they will find many strategies that are successful for their classroom. Personally, I've used apps for the classroom iPad to help with instruction, modified assignments, and made use of graphing calculators. I've found that it is important to remember that all students have the right to an education, and it is our job as educators to ensure that the opportunities are provided.